Hello, my dear students. Well, today we are going to analyze our grammar. So I'm going to share with you our presentation today, okay? So I just want you to analyze this, let's say, presentation in details. Well, we are going to start grammar from unit number 5, okay? And as you can see, there is a very nice cup of coffee. Would you like some? Well, let us analyze something related to that. That is, we can say, I love coffee. That's a normal sentence. But we could also say that in different ways. Okay? I may say, I like drinking coffee in the morning. Or I do like drinking coffee. I could say in the morning too, because that's something that I do like. I do like drinking coffee. And I can also say, every morning, I love a cup of coffee. I love to. That's it. Or I can say, I love it a lot. So notice that in all these sentences, we are referring to the same thing. That is the way we drink this beverage, that is coffee, and the way we perceive that. So we like it, we love it, and we have said that in different ways. That's why we will focus attention on this structure today. First, we will analyze the emphatic structures in English. And as you can see, there are 3 different ways to create emphatic structures in English. The first one is using inversion. Instead of the normal, let's say, structure in which we have a subject at the beginning of a sentence and a verb followed by an object, we will change that order and we will start with a verb plus a subject and finally the object of a sentence. There is another form to gain emphasis in our sentences. That is using fronting. What does it mean? Well, fronting is just that form in which you start with an adverb or an adjective at the beginning or a burial clause, okay? And that particular phrase could get, let's say, the emphasis in the analysis of the whole sentence, okay? So a possible word starts that sentence instead of using the normal subject at the beginning of a sentence. And the third form could be using a cleft sentence. What's that? Well, it's quite simple. It is when you divide the sentence into different parts so that you may include other elements, okay? For instance, in this sentence you have here, when we just say, I love to go on vacations abroad. That is, that's something that I love, but we can say that with more emphasis, okay? This is the normal way. I will say, I love to go on vacations abroad. But if we want to make emphasis to this, we can divide the sentence into 2 and include other forms, other words in these 2 places, okay? Well, I just wanted to analyze what words could you use in these blank spaces. I think you got the idea. But there is another, let's say, structure we are going to analyze today. And it is the use of different devices to avoid repetition in English, okay? And as you can see, there are 2 main ways to avoid repeating words in English. That is the use of substitution. You substitute one word for another, or the use of ellipses. That is, you avoid using everything in the sentence because there is one part which could be omitted as it is perfectly understood, okay? Then, let us focus attention on the first idea. as I said, we may include other words. Do you have an idea of those words we can include? Yes? Yes, I know you can. Well, the first thing we can say, well, the first thing, those are words that we use normally to make emphasis. And here you can say, what I love, the thing I love, okay, is to go on vacations abroad. Notice that we have said the same idea, but in different words, with different words. And well, as you may say, there are many emphatic structures that involve cleft sentences. And the cleft means divided or split into two different parts, as I, let's say, explained. And in that case, notice that the use of the subject together with the verb, okay, and the object together with the verb, okay, could be divided into, let's say, two main parts in which we include the subject and the verb, and then the object together with other things, okay? Then, and the first thing we may, let's say, refer to, it's just the case of what. The WH what corresponds to one thing. And in that case, in the example I was mentioning, going abroad on vacations, well, that's what I like. Or in the first, let's say, example I was explaining, coffee, because what was the coffee, okay? So in those sentences, we analyze what as the possible cleft sentence, okay? So the cleft sentence with what refers always to a thing, but that's not the only one. There are other things that could be referred to, like for instance, a place, a reason, a person, okay? The way we do something, those are possible, let's say, ideas that we may use in a cleft sentence, okay? Then, when the cleft sentence starts with what, it's because we want to emphasize a noun, right? For instance, what I like is, and I will say that, coffee, okay? What I like is the free time in the English lessons or the grammar part of the lesson. So it could be a noun or a noun phrase, okay? So everything refers to something, an object, okay? Then, and when the cleft sentence uses what, we may refer to it. That is, we can substitute that for it. And you can say it, it's, for instance, it's coffee. Notice that after it's, we place that noun. So we say, it's coffee, what I like, okay? It's going abroad on vacation, what I like, okay? So notice that the cleft sentence that refers to what could be, let's say, expressed using what at the beginning or using it's or it is, and then you add the noun phrase, okay? And the second thing that we can use is, let's say, the place. In that case, instead of saying what I like is coffee, well, instead of saying that, we can say the place where I live, no, is Santo Domingo. No, I will say I live in Santo Domingo, but I can use a cleft sentence there. And I could say, for instance, The place where I live is Santo Domingo, okay? I could also say, she works in a fast food restaurant, okay? That is, the place where she works is a fast food restaurant. So notice that in a cleft sentence, we just add, and I can see it here, the different things, the place where he works is a fast food restaurant. When we refer to a person, you know, we use who, and you can say it, for instance, one sentence like this, you need to see the manager. If you want a cleft sentence, you will include something before you need and something before is. As what comes at the end is a noun phrase, you had to think, okay? You had to think about what that is. Then you say the person you need, okay? The person you need to see is a manager. For your problems in English, the person you need to see is an English teacher, okay? Or a very well, let's say, classmate, or a very well, let's say, advanced student, okay? Or maybe a foreigner who speaks English, all right? So perhaps you substitute these without conscious, that is, when you need to speak about something. The same when you are referring to why, the cause or the reason you do something, you can say, the reason why I am here is because I had to teach. Okay, so the reason why I am here is because I saw the advertisement in your window. So I am referring to the, let's say, the idea I want to emphasize, changing the, let's say, the way we say things in English. I can also say, I am here because I saw the advertisement in your window, but this is just the normal sentence. If I make emphasis, I will use these devices. What, where, why, who, and also which. Which, it's the last one we could do, or we could use here. Which, you know, refers to the way, the manner we do something. Which way? And in this case, the way to do this is by filling out this form, okay? So to do this, fill out this form. Or to do this, you had to fill out this form. And if we want to make a cleft sentence, we will use the way instead of, or the way in which, instead of using the subject and then the verb and its complement, okay? So that was the first idea we want you to analyze in English, the cleft sentences, okay? And of course, we can also use other devices for different reasons. Before I just continue with this, let's get back to our presentation. And remember that there are three forms, okay? And of course, in substituting, we have to replace one word for another. That could be in case of, let's say, nouns, using pronouns. And in case of using verbs, you may substitute those using given structures as to or so. Let's see an example, okay? Well, when it is like this, an adjective, you can change the adjective for another similar adjective. like this one. All the climbers were tired. Even the leader felt exhausted. So they are synonyms. Instead of repeating the same word, I will substitute the second so that we may impress our listener with our vocabulary. Okay, the same here, the second example. The packs were heavy, and with the rain on the backs, they felt especially weighty. That is, using a synonym for this adjective. Well, we could also substitute nouns like this one. You may use pronouns to refer to the notion, that is the noun we had expressed before. And this is the case. It was a dangerous idea. It's not a masculine, it's not a feminine, it's a third person singular, which has no sex. Then, in this case, we say, but no one had an alternative one. Alternative idea, okay? So no one had an alternative one. There was no other possible idea but this one, okay? If two nouns are mentioned, we use the former to refer back to the first one and the latter to refer to the second. Let's see the example. The two choices open us are walking or taking a bus. We have two alternatives here. The first one, the former, it's walking. The second, the latter, it's taking a bus. So we can say the former, it's more healthy, but it'll take longer than the latter, okay? Then, let's see in the case of substituting verbs and verb phrases. Well, normally we use the auxiliary of the verb phrase that correspond to the action that we are, let's say, mentioning the sentence. For instance, when we say, we love being active at weekends, we are using one verb. We love being active at weekends. The verb is love. And in this case, we are not going to repeat the same, but we are going to refer to our children, not to us, to our children. And in that case, we say, we love being active at weekends, but our children don't. What does it mean? That we have made an opposition here. We do love that. Our children don't love that. But I do not repeat the same. I avoid that using don't. And we understand. In this second example, we say, I didn't like history at school, but I do now. So at a given moment, I disliked that matter. Today, I love it, okay? Then we can use the expression do so to replace a verb phrase. And in this example, we can say it, do so. They'd love, they would, okay? They'd love to take a year off work and travel. But to do so, that is, to take a year off work and travel, to do so wouldn't be practical because, of course, you would be, let's say, out of your work and maybe you won't have that possibility to keep your job, okay? Then, when we respond to another person's comment, we can use a different auxiliary. For instance, if a person have said, would like to take a year off work and travel, you may reply, Well, you should. Just a second, okay? Well, okay, let's continue. And as I said, of course, we may substitute the second part, the same word, the same phrase, for another that, let's say, would give us the idea of a different structure, okay? So we can say, for instance, in this case that I was explaining to you, I'd love to take a year off work and travel, but to do so wouldn't be practical, okay? Now, let's see, in the case we may, let's say, instead of saying to do so, we may use other, let's say, auxiliaries. For instance, if we say, we'd like to take a year off work and travel, we would, or we should like to take, okay? In that case, we would like, we will answer with well, you should, because that's a necessity you have. Or you could also say, you should have taken the other job as a suggestion. And the other person would say, well, I didn't. Notice that in this case, it's something that happened in the past, and this was the suggestion. But of course, a suggestion to an action that you did in the past. And of course, as that person didn't do that, he or she will say, well, I'm sorry for that, but I didn't. I, let's say, perhaps, let's say, have a different idea at that time, or perhaps I lost an opportunity. But that was my selection, my option at that time, okay? So the answer, well, I didn't. When there is more than one auxiliary, we can use one or more to respond to that. For instance, it would have been a good idea to book a taxi. And the answer could be, yes, it would, the first auxiliary. Or, yes, it would have, the first and the second auxiliary. Or, yes, it would have been. It would have been, what? A good idea, okay? So in that case, the first and the second, and in this case, the main verb, okay? So these are different possibilities we have for substituting the verb and the action. But when we substitute clauses, whole sentence, well, we will use, in that case, these structures you can see. Do you think all your students will pass their exam? Yes, I hope so. So notice that so stands for the whole clause. That is what I think, that they will pass their examination, okay? Or in this case, the second sentence, we can say, it'll be hard to find a hotel because there is a conference that week. I didn't know that. So that, what does it mean? What we said before, okay? Or in the other case, are they going to be late? I hope not. That is, not refers to what I was asked by the other person, okay? Then, those are forms to substitute clauses, and let us analyze the other part, that is the ellipsis. The ellipsis means omitting words completely, that is, some part of the sentence. Use these ellipses to avoid repetition, okay, of, let's say, a part of a sentence. For instance, when you say, will you meet Giles while you're in Paris? The answer could be, yes, I hope to. I hope to means I hope to meet him, okay? So these are the new, let's say, grammatical structures we have for this unit. In the examples we were analyzing here, notice that for these group of people. We are analyzing a wedding. We may say here, we are late. You know, don't hurry up. So the woman is in her wedding, let's say, party or perhaps ceremony. I think it's a wedding ceremony, and she is late. So take it easy, don't hurry up, okay? Then notice that here we have say something which is emphatic. Say, hey, stop. You don't have to run. And let's take a look at these two people. The first one say, I did tell you she'd be late. That is, she is always late. We know her behavior. So now that she is getting married, she is also late. So I may say, well, I told you. But instead of saying, I told you that, I will say, I did tell you. Notice that we use the, let's say, the auxiliary did in this case because the idea, the sentence is in the past. But after I have used the auxiliary did, I don't have to make the second the second verb, that is the main verb, in its past form. I have the past tense in the auxiliary. So I will say, I did tell you. I did tell you. Okay, I told you. I did tell you. So in the second, I did tell you, we gain more emphasis. And let's see the last one. She does look beautiful. Okay, she does look beautiful. That is, she looks really beautiful. I want to emphasize that idea. So I will use the auxiliary does because I'm referring to a person who represents the third person singular and in the present tense. So to make emphasis in this sentence, I will say, she does look beautiful. The meaning of this is that we may refer to an emphatic form in the present, in the past, or in other, let's say, structures. Okay, so good luck doing the activities. We have a lot of activities for you, and I'm going to show you the first one I want you to do right now. That is, when I finish, you stay and copy this activity for you to do it, okay? Well, this is our CTT platform, and this is the activity I set. What are they doing is quite unprecedented, okay? What they are doing, it's quite unprecedented. Then we may substitute these, we make the sentences more emphatic by rewriting them, okay? What they are doing, it's quite unprecedented. That is, we may think that what they said, it's normal, all right? We want to make emphasis on those sentences. The first one, it is like this. The shellfish make Jasmine sick. And we are going to use it was. As we had taught, it should be using it was at the beginning. It was the shellfish what, notice that we use what, no? It was the shellfish what made Jasmine sick, okay? Then we will do the others. You will do them in your notebooks, and we are going to check them rapidly in our, let's say, coming meeting, okay? But you had to take care of these sentences and the way you are going to substitute or make ellipses for them, okay? Well, not in this case, because it is the emphatic structure. Then number two, Greg lost the office keys. You will say it. He is approaching the problem for an entirely new angle. You will say what. Those are different things that you are going to use right now to get more emphasis in your, let's say, sentences. Okay, so that was our presentation, but remember that in unit number 5, you have a lot of grammar exercises, both in the CTT platform and also in the MyELT platform, live platform. Okay, so I'll see you. Remember, you have to study first these grammatical structures, and then we may practice later. Okay, so I'll see you. Goodbye. Well, I stop sharing with you my presentation. I am going to stop the recording of this lesson right now, but we will see each other pretty soon. See you then.